Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today's guest, I can't tell you. He lives right next door to me, so it's somebody who I talk to all the time. But when I read you his resume, you're going to think that he should live on a different street than on mine. This gentleman has coached at Dayton. He's coached at Wisconsin. He is the current coach of the number one ranked Wisconsin Badger women's volleyball team. He's been Big Ten Coach of the Year twice, Volleyball Magazine, National Coach of the Year in the Atlantic 10. You know, this is like the LeBron James of volleyball coaching. Kelly Sheffield, thanks for being on the program today.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. Have you shoveled your driveway yet today?
Yes, I did part of your sidewalk.
I appreciate that, man.
You know what? It's so much fun to have you next door because we get to talk about so many different things. And, you know, one of the biggest things, you're on a top performing volleyball team, the number one in the country right now. And if you look at your coaching record, 461 and 461 wins and 161 losses. That's incredible. But it wasn't always easy, the coaching styles. I know we had talked about this before. Tell me more about how your coaching career started.
Well, I've never played a game of volleyball in my life. But I was always a sports fan. In high school, I was a runner, and so I went away for college for a year. And then when I came back, I was our middle school cross country coach at the school that I went to, and somehow found volleyball, and that was the good thing about it was. I happened by happenstance to be probably one of the hotbeds of this sport in the entire country. Unbelievable coaches around. And so I was surrounded by people who could teach the game, who could break it down. A lot of some of the best coaches in the country were in this little tiny town of 70,000, Muncie, Indiana. And, and so I'm getting basically an Ivy League education in coaching. And I knew that it was really good, the sport there, but, the further you go down the line, you're just realizing the mentors and the wealth of knowledge that I was just getting from so many different people. And that was 1989, and 30 plus years later, you're open to learning and getting some great opportunities along the way, and here we are, year 8 of Wisconsin now.
That's crazy to think it's year 8 of Wisconsin, and I don't know if you actually do. You know that you're one of only 3 head coaches to lead their team to the final match in their first season? Did you know that?
No.
Yeah,
Nope.
You're one of only 3 head coaches to lead their team to the final match of their first season in the NCAA in coaching. I'm glad that I could actually give you that kind of information because that's huge. Coming into a program and being able to have the women in the program be able to trust you and at the same time play to that high level. What is it that kind of differentiates your coaching style from others to be able to get that optimization of each of those girls?
It's been a journey of trying to figure out who I am, what, I think, what type of coach you want to be, what type of mentor, what type of trainer. I was doing, for 7 years, it was junior high, coaching junior high and junior varsity and assistant varsity coaches, club coach, at a, 14 and under third team, doing that for a couple years. And then a 16 under twos team. And working every single camp that I could possibly work anywhere. I mean, it was just, sitting in gyms. And so, you're just stealing stuff. And, and a lot of it wasn't just drills, and systems, but it was how to communicate and how to build teams. And there was so many errors along the way. And then when I got in the college game in 97, around a lot of different types of coaches that were really successful and learning from them. Bill Walton at the University of Houston and Melissa Shelton at the University of Virginia. Jolene at Clemson was there for a year. And before I got my first head coaching job at Albany, and I get there at Albany, and we had 17 players on the team. Our first year, we go 4-24, and it's and after the season, 14 kids quit. So we had a team of 3, and
oh man,
but it was one of those scenarios. We were. Our RPI was 287 in the country out of 313 teams, and I thought we were overrated. There was no way in the world there was 18 teams in the country better than us. It was so bad. It was a 2 years before I got there, they were Division II, so they were making the fast track from D3 to D2 to D1, and the support and the scholarships and the talent and the commitment, none of those things had caught up to being a Division I program. So I got the job, and I'm not sure. I think the reason why I got the job is because I was probably one of the only people that wanted it. And it's and what I liked about it was I had, it was kind of like a scientist, I guess. Maybe that's the wrong way, but we have a phrase in our gym that learn like a scientist. So, there's going to be mistakes, and that's all right. Learn from them and move forward. But I had an opportunity to do so much. I made so many mistakes at Albany. And it was a perfect place for me because nobody knew anything. I mean, our first match there, we had 13 fans, and almost all of them were one player's family. And so nobody paid attention to us, or, not even the administration. Fans didn't go, nothing. And so I'm making all kinds of mistakes and learning and having a great time. And so, I was there for 7 years and then go to Dayton for 5 years, which is a really good program, top 25 type of program, good commitment. But then time I get to Wisconsin, this had been a program that had kind of been struggling for a few years, but they had a lot of talent.
Right.
They'd finished 10th in the Big Ten the year before we got here. And I'd had a staff that I'd been around for a few years, and we came in, so we knew each other. And the team was just hungry. There was talent. We had a really good freshman class coming in. Lauren Carlini, who was, high school national player of the year, was coming in as well. Pete Waite left me a lot of talent. They just had to be motivated and move in the same direction. And they were they wanted to win. And so we came in and gave us some structure, and we just got momentum. And as we got momentum, we just kept getting better and better and better.
And the one thing that always, with coaches, you have to have that kind of forgetful memory, but also have that immediate growth. All those times in Albany when you were messing up, how did you get past not kicking yourself? Because I think a lot of people who are leaders out there, they think of, I failed all these people. And then it just goes down this bunny hole of, how do I get out of this? How did you kind of progress yourself at a pace? Because you would have a game probably that 2-3 days afterwards, and then you had to adjust to that. How did you do that?
Our first year was so bad. Number one, I didn't have any other staff around me. It was me. I mean, it was me. It's, I remember our first home match, and the visiting team shows up, and I'm wearing a suit. That's how I used to coach, was in a full suit. And I'm on the floor, and I'm scrubbing the pole pads. And visiting team walks in, the coach walks in, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And he goes, and I said, "If not me, then nobody does it."
Wow. Yeah.
I swept our gym floors. I went down and renovated our locker room, painted it and all kinds of stuff. It was just, there wasn't anybody else. I was the strength coach. I was everything. And, but then, Kathy, my current wife, she came over to be my assistant for a grand total of $4,000. And so she's there, she's taken a year off before she went to pharmacy school. And so we had a rule that first year, we're going to look for anything to celebrate, anything. And so if we had a win, which didn't happen very often, we're done for the night. I wasn't going to go back and break down film or anything. If we got a recruit, boom. All right, let's go grab a beer somewhere.
Minor victories.
Yeah. So one day we're like we got a commitment at 10 a.m, and we just looked at each other. It's like, we can't go drink it now, man. Let's just keep. We got to keep working. It's just, we can't do that. But that first year, there were so many things to beat us down. Is that we were constantly looking for things to celebrate, and that was totally different in year two. But in year one, we just needed the team, us, to just feel good about some things. That was and then we get it, but then it became the following year we got to 16 and 15. And the next year we won 20. The next year we won 24. The next year we won 27. And so we went to 6 years in a row. We were one of two programs in the country to improve our RPI 6 years in a row. And we got it as high as 40th in the country from 287. And so,
holy cow. Yeah.
Those were things that we were that's what we got caught up on. So it wasn't things we weren't doing. It was believing in the direction that we were heading. And so when we were communicating to recruits, when we were communicating to the team, when we were communicating to my bosses, the people that made the decisions on where how much scholarships money we were going to get and so on and so forth, we're able to sell momentum. And that, I think, gave us a little bit of credibility when we were saying this is what we're trying to do. That, well, here you follow this line of where we're moving. We're able to connect the dots. People are able to believe in it.
I love that, and I think the biggest thing, and it's interesting because I think a lot of people watch college sports and they see the coach there and they see the players playing, and the understanding of the complexities of a college athlete is not there. And you have to deal with all those complexities, from the education to the emotions to the, these are actually, 18, 19 teenagers growing up in this microcosm of sports. And, at Wisconsin, you've created them into the, number one team in the country. So how do you help these teenagers to understand the perspective that it's a game and that you got to go out there and do everything that you can, but it all correlates to their lives down the road?
To me, that is the most enjoyable part, is making that connection. We're teaching life skills through sport. If it was just about volleyball, if it was just about the game, I don't know if I'd be bored with it, but it would just lack any depth. And so we're constantly trying to make these connections. I just got out of practice an hour ago, and we were talking about We had some people that were kind of struggling a little bit, and so we talked about responding. How do we respond? And it's just not about in practice or in a match. It's about life. There's going to be times that things are going to be tough, that things aren't going your way. And here in our program, we're going to respond with strength and unity. And so we're constantly trying to make those connections to how this is going to play out down the road. And obviously in the year of COVID, there's that constant reminder all the time. But one of the things when we're going through recruiting, we give it to people straight. We don't give them a bunch of BS or anything. It's just here. This is who we are and what we're going to be about. And then when they get on campus, before we even have our first practice, we're sitting there and we have a meeting that lasts a few hours, and we're going over our championship manual that spells everything out of how we're going to go about things, how we're going to go about things academically, how we're going to do things with the community and community service, how we're supposed to act and carry ourselves, how we're supposed to respond to one another. We try to leave nothing in the gray.
I love that. And then, from that perspective, you kind of take it to the next level of, okay, so you have these individuals who you're sculpting. You get to the national championship game. You were the runner-up in 13 and 19. How do you get to that pinnacle? How do you help them the next day after a failure that, a lot of people would see as a failure? I always see it as a growth. But a lot of people at that age would see it as a huge failure. How do you help them to say, hey, tomorrow is the next day that we start to get to that championship again?
See, on 2013, I don't think anybody, we were kind of like, it was like Rocky,
12 seed.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was they hadn't made the NCAA tournament for 5 years in a row and finished either 9th or 10th in the Big Ten for 5 straight years, back when the Big Ten was 12 teams. So there was, the year before, I think it was tied for 10th. So there's like one team in the Big Ten behind.
Right.
And so we get in and, we keep getting better and better. As the only team I've ever worked with, that 2013 team, that every week they were better than the previous week. I mean, it was just, there was never a step backwards. But, we had a huge win in the semifinals against University of Texas, who was the defending national champions, and returned all of their players except for one, and they were the number 1 seed. They were the overwhelming favorites, and we came in there and just smacked them around, played really well. And then we're playing Penn State for the finals, and we're 2 points away from sending it to a 5th set, and they ended up closing it out in 4. And but it wasn't a sense of failure. There's people were really bummed that we had the opportunity to win the program's first national championship. That, it wasn't happiness in the locker room, but I think there was also an appreciation for what they did, because when we came in there was a lot of sacrifices that we asked them to make. And there were people that weren't sure they were capable of doing that. I mean, we really tried to raise the bar. And I think there was a realization that, man, we made sacrifices and it really paid off. And I think they were proud of themselves, of what they were able to do. And, but yeah, we certainly, when the time was appropriate, we broke down that championship match and we got back to work. It's just here. There's some good things, but there's ways that we got to continue to get better. And that's all we talk about. It's this constant search for trying to be better. And it doesn't matter if we win or we lose. It is just this, we're just hammering away all the time. It's this drive, this hunger to just always get better. And it doesn't matter if we go to the Final Four, if we win a Big Ten championship, or, we lose 4 matches in a row. It's just constant. Let's try to find ways to get better. Last year we make it, or last season, we make it to the Final Four. But at one point in the season, we're 4-4. We'd lose four matches in a row going into the Big Ten. But my talk with them going into the Big Ten is, hey, we're 0-0. We've got to get better. And I said, guys, guess what? I'd be saying the exact same thing if we were 8-0, 0-8, or the 4-4 that we're right now. And so we've just got to put our minds into getting better, and it'll end up working out if we're able to focus that way.
I love that philosophy, because it's interesting when you look at a lot of the athletes that you've had, go on and play afterwards. And then do you have a lot of your athletes come back, and do you get to see what kind of career fields they went in, the success that they've went into?
Oh yeah. I've talked to a lot of them. Last week we opened up our season finally against Purdue, and the 24 hours leading up to that first match, I probably heard from at least a dozen Wisconsin former players. That doesn't even include, the kid from the other schools. I mean, it's one of the things that really gives you a lot of joy is seeing them move, whether it's playing professionally or getting into their life after volleyball, or with their families. It is such a source of joy, especially those that have really, really traveled a long distance and self-improvement, I guess, or just their maturity. I mean, we start recruiting these guys when they're about 14 years old, and they get on campus when they're 17 or 18, and then they leave here when they're 22 or whatever. And so you're really a part of their lives and their families' lives, and you really get to see them over a long period of time, in some cases a decade
right.
Of growth before they even get out. So there's just so much joy in seeing them soar.
So when you have these high performers, and this is always that great question that a lot of people ask, is when you have high performers coming into a like team, we've seen it in the NBA, we've seen it in pro football, all over. Now you put it in a college environment like your team this year. You've got some high performers. How do you get them all to buy into the team concept? How do you get them to buy into being a Wisconsin Badger and not just themselves?
Well, I think if you're being true to yourself during the recruiting process can last for a little bit. And there's a lot of conversations, and people come on campus and they're around the team. And if everybody's true to themselves, when you go from school to school, it just screams at you what each program is about. This is kind of we consider ourselves a blue collar program. There's people that fit in here. We believe in outworking people. And if you're going to outwork people day in, weekend, month on ends, years on ends, if you're going to outwork people for long periods of time, there better be a lot of passion that you have for the sport. If you kind of like it, you're not going to last, And so, and everything that you do, there's passion behind it when you're putting the work in. And we don't hide when recruits come in and see the place and they watch us. We don't hide the hard from them. I mean, they see the hard. And if my team's not going about things and I got to jump on them in practice and a recruit's there, I don't care. It's if they don't want any part of that, then they'll go somewhere else. So we have people that they see what the reality is here, and you either want it or you don't, and that's fine. We don't try to do a lot of bending over backwards convincing people. I don't want to sell them on this. It's just I want to show them
that's
who we
huge.
are.
Yeah, that's huge, and you can see it on the court. I mean, the effort that they give and the consistency, and you are calm on the court. that is not something I've never been calm on in coaching. And, you know, my dad was a very animated coach. How do you remain reserved in those moments? You know, you have 2 points. It's 23-23. They have the serve. You've got to get it done. Just made a mistake by a fault on a serve or whatever. How do you remain calm to make sure that they stay calm and go for the victory?
Earlier in my career, I was probably the least calm person, you know. I mean, my example of coaching growing up was Bobby Knight and Gene Cady. You know, I mean, that's, you know, Indiana guy. I mean, that's who you watch. Yeah. There was plenty of times that I was just an insane crackpot out there. I mean, it was absolutely out of control. And that's where I was talking about maybe some of my earlier years. I was fortunate to be in places where nobody watched and nobody cared because I was just an idiot. And but then there becomes a time that you start for me anyways, is just this journey of how can I be better? And it's a question I'm asking myself every day, all the time. And what I know is that what I've learned is that I can't be a barrier for my team during competition. In practices, sure, I can be, but in matches, I either need to be out of the way or I need to be on their side. If they've got to beat the opponent and they've got to beat me, then we've got problems. If I'm a distraction, then it's not going to bring out the best in them. And so it's and then the other thing is when you're in the Big Ten, the coaching in this league is so unbelievable. If I'm just reacting to everything, then I'm not helping my team. Because the other coaches are they're 2 steps ahead or whatever. And right. So if I don't have a clear mind and I don't try to make this, and then just watching some of the best coaches in other sports or not even in coaching, other professions, you don't see the elite people that are just insane and unpredictable. I mean, they are methodical. They're thinking and they're ready to move and maneuver, and make good decisions that aren't based on emotion. And so that's taken me it continues to be a work in progress, to tell you the truth, for me.
I love it. Well, Kelly, I appreciate you coming on today. I always end with 3 same questions for everybody. I didn't give them to you before. I could probably throw them out the window and you could read them, but I'll ask them to you. So the first question is if what would be one big suggestion or advice that you would tell to your 18-year-old self?
Oh man. God. I was the biggest idiot on the planet. My God.
Do you need more than one thing?
It would be more than one thing. It'd be a book, and then I'd say, and it'd have to be small words so I could understand it back then. I think, man, you continue, always look for opportunities to learn. Keep your mouth shut and listen. Use your ears more than your mouth. And I love that. That can be a challenge for anybody. That was a real challenge for me. Probably still is. Anybody that's still listening to this podcast. I mean, it's just, my mouth can get in the way sometimes. And every year I try to be a better listener. I don't care how good I get at being a good listener. It's always going to be right up there at the top. So that'd probably be something I'd probably be screaming at my younger self.
I love that. I need that too right now. So here's the second question. A lot of people are going through challenging times, and a lot of people are struggling. And what are 2 daily habits? It can be habits that you start in the morning or in the evening. What would be 2 daily habits that you'd suggest that people incorporate into their life to start living forward?
General McRaven says, start your day by making your bed, because if that's it,
Yes.
if you've done nothing else all day long, then at least you've done that. And so you've accomplished something to start your day. So
I love that.
Maybe it's that. Obviously the exercising part is important. It's, one of the things that I've tried to do that I did not take priority when I was younger, but of finding moments in the day where I can just be still and unplug from, one of the things we talk to our team about, unplug from technology, plug into people, and, or plug into yourself, of just going on a walk or having, just staying off the phone, staying off the computer, just being alone with your own thoughts. Take deep breaths and things. Those are some things I've tried. I've really, it's been hugely beneficial to me.
I love that suggestions, because that's the one big thing. I love being in that moment and just stop, especially with the environments that we're in right now. So this last question is always fun because we get so many different answers in this question. So if you could pick three people to have coffee with, they can be living or deceased, and it's at a firehouse table. So that means that any question is not off the table. Yeah. You can ask anything. So who would those three people be and why?
Man, that really would have been helpful to have that question ahead of time.
So, hey, I like making the coach sweat a little.
Yeah. Man, oh man.
Oh, I know.
I like people that can have range in their ability. It's not just about one subject. If I'm trying to learn something myself, I'd probably find an expert on something.
Yeah.
But people that have been around a lot of different people, and be able to tell some stories, I think would be fascinating. I don't know. One of them, a guy that just passed away, I think Larry King would be incredible.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The stories and the people he has met, and he is a great storyteller. So I think Larry King might be up there off the top of my head.
And he drinks a lot of coffee, so you're golden.
There you go. There you go. I think you would be, and then I like being entertained. Another one off the top of my head that I think that might be, man, goodness. Maybe Muhammad Ali.
Ooh,
I
like it.
That might have some really, really good discussion there. That could be really. He's got a, him or like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, one of those guys. Just there's just so much there that I'd want to unpack. My third person. Oh my goodness.
You got a good table so far,
man. Yeah, it's my goodness. I don't know. I'll tell you what, for a firehouse, it's too male dominant right now. I've got to find somebody in there.
There you go.
It's who would that be? Oh my goodness. Maybe I don't know.
It's tough.
Maybe somebody who's a rocker or something. Somebody that's a rock star or something.
Joplin or Janet Jackson.
That is exactly who I was thinking of. Was Janet
there you
Joplin.
go.
That's exactly who I was thinking of. And because what would be really interesting about like her, or say like John Lennon or Paul McCartney, or and having Muhammad Ali or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, if you had Larry King there, he would know exactly the questions and how to pull the right stuff out. And so I would just be sitting back here on a with my feet up, with the eating the chili that you guys are probably legendary for making.
There you go.
Just having the time of my life.
See, this is how coaches work. They delegate. You got an interviewer to be on your coffee talk.
That's right, man.
That was genius. That was genius. Well, hey, Kelly, I appreciate you coming on the show today, and best of luck this season. I think you start number one, you end number one. That's how it's going to go.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.